Well, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you may be across this beautiful blue-green globe of ours. Welcome to Real News Live. This is a Toxically Masculine Tuesday. I'm your host, Mike Bara, in Las Vegas, Nevada, joined as I always am by the toxic and the masculine crew of males, the biggest alpha males, fuck you liberal pussies group on the internet, the Toxically Masculine Tuesday crew. To my right, immediately, stage left, stage right, I don't know, whatever it is. Dr. Brooks Agnew, somewhere in the Carolinas. Brooks, how you doing? How you feeling? What's up with the house? What's up with everything else?
We're doing the last of the punch items for the what's called the certificate of occupancy. We should have that done hopefully by the weekend, and then just close on the mortgage and move in. Drinking water, taking it easy, getting ready to go in and have my heart zap back into order, and everything will be in good shape.
You look good. I don't know what the problem is with the heart. You should know.
It's something that happens for old people. It's called AFib. But what happens is the top part of the heart is in one dimension, the bottom part of the heart is in another dimension, and they're not coordinated. So everything is not working the way it should work. It's called the ejection fraction it gets low. So you can't go out and do hard stuff. So what they do is they go in and they shock the heart with high voltage, get it all moving in the right direction again. And 80% of the time you're back up and on your feet.
Somebody's telling me the show's not on YouTube, but Dave Bara, I just checked it and it appears that it is. So go look. That's weird. Below Brooks Agnew is the new man, the man with the new cooking show, Steve Doran, the trail boss. Believe me, he's like Rambo, only he's not as much of a pussy as Rambo is. Steve Doran. Steve, how are you? What's up? What are you drinking tonight?
I'm doing good. I'm actually drinking cowboy coffee that I made earlier. Extremely strong and delicious. I haven't had coffee for a while, so I decided that I was going to treat myself and have some. And I've actually just been up to making the videos and working around the house, getting ready for winter. Not that the winters are too brutal here, but got to get the wood stoves ready and the fireplace ready and all that kind of stuff. I think we have like about a 2-month real winter season, and the rest of the time it's like spring everywhere else.
Yeah, well, spring's not a bad thing to have. It's just like in Vegas, it's summer that's miserable, and some parts of the country.
Well, I like it. As I was telling them off the air, I love it cold. I'll actually open the doors and windows so I can light the fireplace. I love wintertime, especially like Christmas. You got the Christmas tree up. You're making food and cookies and all that kind of stuff. And
then you get visited by the bears and the skunk apes, and
whatever. I mean, I told you. Bigfoot,
are you going to be
Martians, blue people? They show up at my door. They're going to go to town over the hood of my car.
Are you going to be the first guy to shoot, skin, and display an Arkansas skunk ape or not? Is it going to be you?
I would love to. I would love to be the guy to do that. And actually, the blue men would be better.
The blue men? Yeah, those are aliens, though.
Well, right down the street.
You got to be careful.
What's that, sir?
You got to be careful with those aliens. The blue guys are aliens.
I know, but their heads explode just like anybody else's.
It's true.
But anyway, they're supposedly just down the road from me in a cavern. So people claim that they come out at night and they glow blue, and they're like 6 or 7 feet tall.
Cool. Well, that should be a fairly easy target from range.
Even Mike Bara could shoot them in the face.
Yeah. having successfully done it to you. And of course, the other member of the team, the man from Nashville, the owner of the Lickety Split, the finest strip club in Nashville, Tennessee. I was there on my visit to Nashville a couple of weeks ago, hung out with the man himself, the owner, TV's Blake Wally. Blake, how you doing tonight? What are you drinking, bud?
Doing well. Great to be here. Yeah, getting ready for the strip club to open up in a couple of hours. But yeah, it's here, and I'm going to be drinking. I guess I'll represent. Since no one else does, I do have the whiskey here. Since you asked,
yeah,
the rest of us have health problems. That's why.
Well, I took drugs this morning for my dentist appointment. I shouldn't even really be here. I mean, I'm a zombie. I'll tell you what, I should not be driving, and I'm not. So
I can tell you what, Blake, I would love to be in your position right now.
Again, people are saying YouTube is not working. I'm looking at it right now. There's people on it.
See, I'm not getting any comments. I can't see the comments.
Yeah, there's not that many, so one of the channels must be down.
Yeah, something's going on. I can't see stuff.
I don't understand it, guys. I am seeing it on Mike Bara. Oh, wait a minute. Is it on the wrong YouTube channel? I think it's on the wrong freaking YouTube channel.
Oh.
No, it says Mike Bara 333. You're live. It does say that. Guys, I don't know what I can do about that. It sucks though. It sucks. Can somebody please on the outside go and look at Mike Bara 333? Sunflower Callie says I'm on YouTube.
See, I'm still showing Blake. It even says Blake isn't even on the screen. It says he's still backstage waiting to come on.
Yeah.
Oh, we got some technical issues. Okay. Must be the Comet
Mark says
Atlas or whatever it is.
You can see us on Mike Bara 333 or pop over to Real News Live with Mike and Jen on Rumble. Yeah. Live on 333. That's what we want. All right. We're going to move on as if the show was playing for everybody. Quick reminder, however, I want to let everybody know that I am going to be in Pahrump, Nevada this weekend. Birthplace, not the birthplace, but the home of Art Bell, the original host of Coast to Coast AM, the absolute stud of late night talk radio. I'm going to be there at a free event at the, it doesn't even say on this page where it is. It's the Nugget Casino in Pahrump, Nevada on Saturday for a free event. I'm going to be on at 1:30 p.m. Special guest speaker there. I'm going to be on with Joseph De La Torre, the Pahrump alien guy, Kathy Porter, Marisol Rezanov, Levans Figueredo, a psychic, clairvoyant, and UFO enthusiast. It is going to be a good show. It's going to be free. Doors open at 10 a.m. Show closes at 4 p.m. We're going to go out afterwards. We're going to have some fun. Pop on out to Pahrump for this free event. It's probably my last appearance for the year, which will be loads of fun. All right, guys, where we're going to start with today is we're going to start with the No Kings protest over the weekend, where you had a bunch of 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 libtards out having a big party to protest Donald Trump because they just don't like Donald Trump. And MSNBC rolled out this power of the people video. All these people were showing this all over the internet. Oh, look at this massive crowd at the No Kings rally in Boston. And then it turned out the video is from a 2017 Boston protest. It was a pro-life or a pro-death protest, an abortion protest, not today's No Kings rally, which was indeed a large event with tens of thousands attending per reports. But here's the actual screen, and I'd say there's maybe 5,000 people there, maybe somewhere between 5 and 10 at the same location. So this is the reality versus this is what they showed you, which is about twice as many people. And here's the thing, guys, if you can't get 10,000 people out for a Democrat rally in Boston, you're not doing Democrats right. Democrats, you're not being Democrats correctly. Yeah, MSNBC got caught red-handed. They showed this
millions of people across the country marching as
millions
we
of
speak
people,
again.
millions of people marched across the country, and it may have come to 1 million people, but I seriously doubt there were 1 million people at these things. And then here's one of my favorites, the one that just kept coming. Oh my God! Look at all these people! Look at all these people who hate Donald Trump in deep red Idaho. Where is it? Deep red Idaho. No King's Day. It was back up here further. Where are my likes? Let's go back over to my profile. To my likes. Yeah, here's the protest in Boise, Idaho. No Kings protest. Wow. And take a good look at that crowd, folks. Look at who's in there. This is the No Kings protest in deep red Boise. Oh, Donald Trump is in trouble now. Here's another one of the deep red Idaho protests. Yeah. Wow. Okay, so Ron is there to tell us all about it. And so here's the essence of the situation, gentlemen. As it turns out, they faked a whole bunch of the numbers, as usual. This thing was paid for. There was one thing where I showed, I think there's a picture of it somewhere. I should have looked at it. It was a big unfurled Constitution. It was like 100-foot long version of the Constitution being carried around by a bunch of commies. And, when you look at it, it takes millions upon millions upon millions of dollars to organize this. So they're all saying, oh, this is organic. It was spontaneous. It's all built on hatred of Donald Trump. And, it looked to me like in Idaho, at most, they had maybe 3,000 people at the rally in Idaho. So you're telling me there's 3,000 Democrats in Idaho? Ooh, wow. I didn't know that. Big fucking deal. The whole thing was fake. And there was millions upon millions upon millions of dollars that went into infrastructure, stages and microphones and speakers and lighting and, bringing speakers in and putting them up in hotels and having all these people there. The whole thing was completely inorganic and fake. And just like the previous No Kings protest, I don't think it's going to amount to anything. Blake, am I wrong about this? Am I crazy, or is this, do you think, the turning of the tide against the evil fascist villain Donald Trump?
Yeah, they finally got him to roll over and admit defeat. No, it was a big spectacle over nothing, and it was probably a fraction of what it was the first time around when they were going nuts. And again, they get exposed because people, they go there and they start asking them basic questions, and they don't really have anything of substance to say. So it's the cognitive dissonance is very strong with these people. They're convinced that they're the good guys fighting fascism and the evil dictator Trump, but it's not based in reality. So I guess it's fun to laugh at, but it's also concerning because so many of these they're AstroTurf activists, they're big foundations that put all this money in. They're undermining our own sitting president, these corporations. I mean, it's bizarre that we allow this, but we all need to have this, exposed. This is not healthy for our democracy, and the people. And there's nothing where they're fighting for anyway. I don't quite get it.
Well, here's an example of the big Constitution thing that was unfurled, and again, that's going to cost you thousands of dollars to have that made up. And so this is all funding coming probably in the end from overseas, don't you think, Brooks?
Well, yeah, the 50501 network, which is a text network that ties all these nonprofits together. George Soros, Bill Gates, Zuckerberg. It was really a $1 billion senior line dance is what it turned out to be. They, of course, sent all the scripts to the major media. Here's what you read. Here's what you say. Here's the coinage we're trying to fabricate. And none of it worked. None of it clicked. People tuned away. They didn't have the viewership. Trump was off doing peace deals in Israel. And they had a big meeting in the Rose Garden about the ballroom and some Indian holiday celebrations. It stole the thunder out from under everything. And I don't think they got anything accomplished that they wanted to accomplish. But one thing did happen. they exposed all the financial networks.
Yeah.
Now the Justice Department and Kash Patel are hunting down all those things, and they're going to freeze all those assets.
Are they though, Steve Doran? What do you think?
No,
do you think not?
no,
Because they did expose all the financial networks.
You know,
Are they
all
going
of
to do
those,
anything?
all of those financial networks were exposed as soon as as soon as Trump took over the presidency. All of those people were exposed. If they were going to do something, they would have done it then. It's more smoke and mirrors, more blowing smoke up the American people's ass. They are doing nothing. Pam Bondi is useless. Kash Patel is useless. And Don Baggio, whatever the hell his name is also useless. They go out, they preach about all this crap they're doing. They'll arrest, 5 or 6 people and then act like, they've done the American people, that they've done this great work for the American people. They don't even identify, like when they say, oh, we rescued like 4,000 sex slaves in a certain location. They don't even identify the suspects. Who are the suspects? Where did these kids come from? Who took them? Who are the people at the top? Why aren't we being told? All we get is a number. Oh, 4,000 children were rescued. But we don't get any other information. We don't know how many people were arrested, who was keeping them. Were they in private homes? Were they stuck in a warehouse? I mean, we don't get any of that information. So is it even real? Or are they just giving us numbers?
I think they're just giving us numbers, to be honest.
And then the other issue, I just want to comment on this because it was hilarious. I didn't know. I had to go to town on whatever it was, Saturday. And I went through Batesville, Arkansas, which is a fairly good-sized town. And you would think that there would be a number of Democrats there. And they had their protesters out there. And there was like 50 to 100. They were either LGBTQ, whatever they are, PDQ, Dairy Queen, whatever. And then they had like blue hairs. And they were like, maybe, like I said, maybe 100. And they got harangued so bad while I'm sitting in a traffic light. Right? This is not over time. This is like I'm sitting at a traffic light. Traffic's kind of backed up because they're there. And they're getting harangued so bad that they disbanded and started walking away from the time that the traffic light changed. And I'm sitting in the lane, ready to move. And so nobody gave them the time of day. I mean, they were only there probably a half hour. But the news media, by the way, their cameras were focused in on the middle of the 50. Like
right.
5 bazillion people there.
Right.
Yeah.
And
again,
thing, if I was chief of police, and this really pisses me off because I used to do this all the time when I was the sheriff and the chief. When these protesters would come in and they would go into parking lots of businesses and park, I'd have all my guys go out and say, you can't park here. This is for business purposes. It's not here for you to park to protest. You need to go down to the public parking lot, which is always miles away from where they're meeting. And I said, I'm going to tow every car here. So they'd have to walk like 2 or 3 miles back. But it's not fair to the businesses that they're tying up their parking spaces for paying customers.
I agree. I absolutely agree. And that's the other thing, Blake, it turns out that if you look at the videos, these are 90% old liberal white women. That's all it is. There's like, there's a few retiree men that got dragged out, but there's no, and then of course there's the transsexual weirdos, but that's it. And even the transy weirdos weren't out in force. There's no black people. There's hardly any Hispanics at all. And it's like, it's all just basically, so 1 or 5% of the population is old libtard white women who are insane. I mean, don't you think in the end, it just looked, I think it looked really bad for the Democrats.
Well, all the old people that I saw looked like they were ready to croak.
Well, they're trying so hard to make it look like this is some big popular uprising against Donald Trump, and it's not at all.
I'm almost positive to get those people out there at the age they were, they had to pay them or something. I mean, they were old.
I do have some personal stories of people who were in the area who engaged, and they were told they were told by a number of people that they were being paid to show up at this protest and walk around and give it a sign.
The length of time that they stay is directly proportional to the number of porta potties that are close by.
Yeah.
At 1:30 in the afternoon in Charlotte, they went home. The streets were clear.
I did have a complete fucking retard named Alejandro Rojas who fancies himself as a member of the UFO community, but he's just really a dumb fuck. He and his girlfriend Karen. Karen, you're a fucking Karen, and you're a dumb. and they're trying to tell me, oh, you should have been there. The energy was so high. It was so peaceful. Unlike you horrible January 6th insurrectionists, which, by the way, all the violence on January 6th was committed by Democrat-controlled FBI plants that were planted into the situation to pretend to be, Trump protesters, by the way. And by the way, they were trying to prevent the theft of the election, which is what actually happened in 2020. But forgetting that, dumb fuck Alejandro and dumb fuck Karen, forgetting all that stuff, you guys are trying to tell everybody this was so peaceful. Well, we have the fat, ugly, horrid bitch mocking the murder of Charlie Kirk. And then, we have this guy. Who was also at the peaceful King's rally on Saturday.
You gotta grab a gun. We gotta turn around the guns on this fascist system. These ICE agents gotta get shot and wiped out. The state machinery, that's a full display right there, has to get wiped out. You gotta grab a gun.
Okay, so this guy said that you got to get guns out, you got to go after them, you got to shoot ICE agents. He called for the murder of federal agents who are, by the way, enforcing the law. Now, my understanding is, and again, Steve, take it with a grain of salt, this guy's being investigated. Why isn't he already arrested, Steve? What do you think?
I mean, if the Democrats had been in control and the Republicans were doing this, that they would have been arrested on the freaking spot. They would have. And that's one of the things that bothers me about the Republicans. When the Democrats are in power, they use their power and they stick together and they go after anybody who goes after them. The Republicans do nothing. Regardless of what's going on, they do nothing. Like I said, at this juncture, I'm extremely disappointed. And with all of these things that are going on, because we're not seeing any of the evidence that they're doing what they're saying they're going to do. We get numbers, we get, oh, they arrested this, oh, they did this, oh, they did that. But no suspects are shown. None of this stuff ever comes to fruition. And then they wait and hope that the American people forget about it. I mean, we really, as conservatives, not Republicans, because I'm not a Republican or a Democrat. I don't know if I identify with either party because most of the Republicans are rhinos. But as conservatives, we really need to get on the horn, start sending emails, making phone calls and going, you guys need to shit or get off the pot or you're going to be replaced because we're done with you. We are done with your nonsense. Pam Bondi needs to be replaced. Kash Patel needs to be replaced. And every single senator and congressman needs to be replaced.
And this is funny. I wrote this extraordinary book 15 years ago called The Choice. And I said, basically, if you think you're going to just replace one corrupt version of government top-down control over people's lives with a slightly less corrupt version and business as usual is still going to go on, you're wrong, because the physics of human consciousness right now are revolution, revolution, revolution. You guys are going to have it worse than the people that you're trying to replace.
Why do you think they gave themselves $2.5 million in the Build Back Better bill to every senator and congressman for security?
Yeah.
So they can improve the security at their homes and at their offices abroad or around the U.S., blah, blah, blah. Yeah. Why do you think they gave them all that money? And they didn't just give it to Democrats. They gave it to Democrats and Republicans. And you did not hear not one Republican come out and say, I'm not taking that money. You didn't hear one Republican come out and say, hey, this bill includes $2.5 million per elected official for security. You didn't hear one person say this is ridiculous. We shouldn't be getting this money. It belongs to the American people. And I can guarantee you not one gave it back. Not one. They all took it. Every single one of them.
I don't even know how you give it back.
Well, you don't have to accept it to begin with. And you could go, not one of them went public and ratted it out. Not one of them. So yep. You know where their loyalty lies. Money.
Blake, do you have any hope anybody's going to get arrested for these violent threats. And, again, they've exposed the name of the teacher who did the neck thing. She hasn't been fired yet. People are writing angry letters. You know what? The only way you're going to get this done, folks, is to go down to her school where that cunt teaches and swarm the school and refuse to leave. Shut the school down until that bitch is fired. That's the only way you're going to make a difference. But what do you think? What do you think about this, Blake? You think anything's going to change?
I wish we could reason with the left if that was possible anymore. Seeing maybe Bill Maher reaching out, I'm losing hope. The cognitive dissonance is strong. It's worrisome. It seems like the average leftist would rather team up with the Venezuelan gang members to take out MAGA, their opposition, before they would care about their own people. It's weird how they attack ICE for wearing masks, because they're trying to identify, they're trying to do their job to fix the problem of the open border that the last administration left for anything. But it's weird that they're choosing that side, and then they're choosing the Antifa mask terrorists against the people trying to get rid of criminal illegal alien gang members, some of them. So it's bizarre. I don't know how we got here. I don't know, without those conversations, I don't know how we fix that. But it's also interesting in like Portland, Trump's trying to come in and crack down with the federal, with the feds, but then there's the resistance even from the local police seem to be siding with Antifa. We're in some weird, unprecedented level of this civilization I didn't think we would get to. So I don't know how we fix this at this point. It's like we have to have a national divorce. But
yeah, I think we need to put them all somewhere. Like, let's ship all of them to Hawaii or somewhere far away where they can't get to us across the ocean.
What about the exchange?
Why no longer say you lose your senators, you lose your electoral votes? Every single Democrat can go there. Brooks, any thoughts about that? Oh, by the way, hang on. John, yeah, my book is amazing, number one. I criticize Trump all the time, fag. Number two, and guess what? My football team doesn't need about 15 calls from the refs every game to win a stinking football game like yours does. So,
Right
Brooks, what do you think about the subject at hand?
I'm kind of with Blake. I think it's kind of a lost cause, between 2 generations of indoctrination in our schools, bought and paid for fake stream media. I don't know that the mainstream news, which is us now, we're the mainstream news. We have, our listeners, but they're all small audiences. We're not all Charlie Kirks. We are Charlie Kirks in the sense that, we're speaking the truth. We're holding debates. We're in the lion's den and we're doing, the work of God. But our audiences are small, 2,000, 5,000, 10,000 people. We don't have audiences like Charlie Kirk. But what we do see is hope. I see hope that there is the next generation coming up, and they're not buying this shit. They're not buying what the fake stream news has been dishing out, and they're rejecting the indoctrination that has been sold to our students for the last 2 generations. And I think the entire secondary education system is about to collapse under the weight of all the fraud. I also think that the court system, which is now their tactic is clear, that they're going to form a judicial cartel, and this is going to be their main tip of the spear to stop Donald Trump and his agenda, it's going to fail. And I think that once Congress goes back to work, there's a good chance the court could get defunded. They'll still be judges. They won't be impeached, but they won't have a court. It's very possible.
Yeah. Okay. Let's get out of this particular subject. Does anybody think, I personally would have made sure ICE was at every one of these things and targeting anybody who wasn't speaking the King's English eloquently checking their IDs. That would have been hilarious. I don't know why they didn't do it. I guess Trump's afraid of I just criticized Trump. He's afraid of confrontation. But do you think this moves the needle politically at all, Blake, Brooks, Steve, anybody at all. I think it just
No.
I think it's the same people that hated Trump all along anyway, just showing up for the big meeting, and that's it. The big,
All
bingo.
they did is spend $1 billion, have a big line dance day in the sun, and it was completely inconsequential. They wasted their money.
Yeah, well, good for them. Good for them. Unfortunately, it doesn't look like we're going to get anything out of the the networks being exposed because, again, like Steve says, I have no faith they're going to do anything. Well, some interesting construction began today at the White House, and boy, are liberals losing their shit over it. Let's take a look at the bulldozers and the backhoes. Sweet. Okay, so what they did today was they began the demolition of the White House, the East Wing, for a new ballroom that's going to be constructed. And of course, the Democrats lost their shit. They've been all over the place. Here's Hillary Clinton tweeting out, "It's not his house. It's your house." And he's destroying it. Guess what? I have two things to say about this. Number one, January 6th, the Capitol, that's your house also. It's not. It's the people's house. It's not the government's house. And nobody destroyed it. They simply went into it. And then somebody else pointed out, well, Teddy Roosevelt built the West Wing. Taft made the executive office into the Oval Office. FDR added the entire East Wing and included an indoor swimming pool for himself, which John F. Kennedy put to good use, I understand. Truman gutted the entire White House. Nixon added a bowling alley. Obama added a basketball court. Bill Clinton, by the way, added a running track, which he didn't use. And Donald Trump is building a ballroom. Here's the thing about this, guys, is that it's going to cost $250 million. It's going to be a beautiful, elegant ballroom for the White House, which does not have one. It hasn't had one for a long time for official state visits. And it's being paid for by Donald Trump and a bunch of private contributors. It's not costing the American taxpayers a penny. And all the Democrats can do is go, "Oh, look what a dictator is. He's ruining the White House." Aren't they just a bunch of fucking retards, Steve?
I would say so. I mean, they don't even appreciate the fact that he doesn't take a salary. And, obviously I'm pretty hard on Trump's administration.
Oh, wait a minute, Steve. Wait a minute, Steve Doran. You know who else didn't take a salary? Adolf Hitler didn't take a salary.
Oh my God.
Trump is Hitler, right?
Well, Adolf Hitler, I think he got paid in Jewish concentration camp gold teeth.
Yeah.
That's another story. But the reality is that, Trump does do a lot of good things. He just doesn't follow through on extremely important things or things that are extremely important to the American people. But as far as this situation goes, the fact that it's privately funded isn't costing the taxpayers a dime, and that he's bringing back class to the White House so that when people, when we have state visits, it's not like, going to the ghetto house. They're actually going to have an elegant place to meet, have receptions and that type of thing.
And I don't know if you've ever been to the White House, but when they set up for extra events, they have to set up tents. So they bring out a hardwood floor, they put it out, they erect a tent, but there's no connection between the tents and the buildings proper. So if you show up in a fur and a gown and heels or a suit, and it's 90 degrees and foggy bottom, and you got to walk 80 yards from the building to the tent to get back in the air conditioning, you're ruined. You are ruined. It is impossible to have a nice event at the White House. And I don't know about you guys, but I've watched Trump for a long, long time, and every single solitary construction project he has ever taken on has been perfect. I have no doubt that this ballroom is going to be amazing. You know what he asked today? He said, "Well, I don't know how long it takes to pull the permits." And they said, "You don't have to pull permits." He said, "What?" He said, well, if that's the case, I'll be done by spring.
Yeah. Yeah, it's the White House, and basically the president owns it. So, Blake, what do you make of this nonsense about the Democrats trying to make an issue out of this? I mean, it's all privately funded. What's the issue? Do you think this buys them any traction? And let's go a little bit deeper. Does this buy them any traction? Number one, and number two, why do they keep trying this stupid stuff? Do they just not have any plan of how to oppose this guy?
No, it's just like they get their talking points or something. It could be anything, the most frivolous thing possible. It could be, I remember they were, making fun of JD Vance with the way he was running after his kid. And it's just like they just have to have something to talk about on Twitter, and it's always got to be against Trump. Now, yeah, they would have a case if it was costing taxpayer money. I mean, that would be awful, like $250 million. Like that would be something to absolutely complain about. But if that's not the case, then there's nothing for them to say. And I guess they also speak to what Brooks is saying. I've never been to the White House, but I have been several times at the Ronald Reagan Museum, which is where they host a lot of those sort of big events. They're designed for that. And they have frequently a lot of high profile people in DC that have events there. I guess they probably don't have the event space there. So that's cool that they want to add on to that. It's a historic place, and it's out of his pocket. Nothing to complain about, but that's just the leftist of today.
Well, I can tell you that the times I went, I arrived on the train, and I had to walk a little bit. I actually had to walk downstairs to the Congressional Auditorium to use the restrooms, and I took my shirt off and let it dry in the bathroom because I had sweated through it. And I had to cool off and then redress and then go back up to the event. It is just not tenable. And this is going to be the first time in U.S. history that this has ever been possible. And speaking of facelifts, I mean, come on, Mika Brzezinski knows all about facelifts. This is just a facelift for the White House, and it's going to be gorgeous.
That was mean. That was mean for this show. Speaking of mean,
if she has another one, she's going to have a beard.
I came across something interesting. We're gonna. There's not a lot of hard news to talk about right at the moment. So, peace agreements in the Middle East are still in place at the moment. But there's a really interesting piece today that I came across, which is that it was Richard Nixon, President Nixon, who was removed because he told Jackie Gleason about aliens. That's why they came up with the Watergate.
I'm sorry, say that again. I missed it.
Richard Nixon was impeached and removed because he told Jackie Gleason about aliens. That is the real reason why Richard Nixon was removed. But when they started coming out, this is interesting in the culture war, Blake. Richard Nixon said some things in the 1970s when an American sitcom called All in the Family came out and put the first openly gay character on television. And I wanted to get everybody's opinion about what Nixon said, because I think we're just about coming full circle back to where more people probably agree with what Nixon said in 1971 than they agree with the LGBTQ agenda right now. So let's go on and read what President Nixon said. In 1971, President Richard Nixon, this is Pat Buchanan quotes, by the way, privately criticized the growing presence of gay characters on television, seeing it as part of a left-wing effort to undermine American values. It is. On White House tapes, these are the Watergate tapes, he singled out the All in the Family episode, Judging Books by Covers, in which Archie Bunker learns that a macho friend is gay for promoting what he viewed as moral decline. Nixon said, "I do not think that you should glorify homosexuality on public television. You don't glorify it any more than you glorify horrors." Now, we all know that people do that. We all have weaknesses, but God damn it, what do you think that does to kids? What do you think that does to 11 and 12-year-old boys when they see that? Why is it that the Scouts and the boys clubs, that we constantly had to clean up the staffs to keep the goddamn fags out of it? By God, can I tell you, it outraged me. Not for any moral reason. Most people are outraged for moral reasons. It outraged me because I don't want to see this country go that way. You know what happened to the Greeks? homosexuality destroyed them. Sure, Aristotle was a homo, so was Socrates. The last 6 Roman emperors were fags. You know what happened to the popes? It's all right that the popes were laying the nuns. That's been going on for centuries. But when the Catholic Church went to hell 3 or 4 centuries ago, it was homosexual. Wow, Dick Nixon. Any commentary on that? Blake, Brooks, you're nodding. I'll let you start.
Well, he's right. And there was another show that came on that was hugely controversial. It was called Soap.
Yes.
Soap had an openly gay character in it. And a lot of families protested that show. You should not glorify or put on or normalize homosexuality on television because young people are watching it and it influences them.
Yeah, and the other thing was pointed out, I thought rather cleverly on Twitter the other day. If you have to normalize something, that means it's not normal. Our other social media commenter, social commenter, TV's Blake Wally. Blake, what do you think of that tirade by Nixon? I'm not sure I 100% disagree with much of anything in it, to be honest with you. I think he's right, and I think that did begin a moral decline, which I witnessed because I was 11 years old when he said that.
That is a tough one. That is a loaded question. Where do I sit with that? Because on the flip side of that, there's points to be made. And I think just everybody needs to be open about it because we can't just pretend that they don't exist. Because as far as I'm concerned, homosexual, they are born that way. That's just the way they're wired. They are going through, that's how they view life, what have you. That's a reality. And I feel bad that they had to live in the closet and whatever. But yeah, on the flip side, they shouldn't be around, kids perhaps, or they shouldn't be, a drag queen story hour. Maybe they shouldn't be Cub Scouts. Maybe they should be a little more scrutinized, but they are people. I guess they're trying to, put that into the culture because it is a reality, but they shouldn't be, again, normalizing it to that extent. And I don't like where they're pushing all the trans agenda on the kids is horrific. That's gone too far. So it is a very complicated issue.
It's to me, what's fascinating about that tirade, and apparently it is a legitimate quote, is that Nixon, this is in 1971, was talking about how for years and years and years, they had to constantly go in and clean up the Boy Scouts and the boys clubs from the homosexual pedophiles who were trying to take advantage of the young boys. And to me, that shows me that this stuff's been going on for a long time, and this agenda's been in place for a long time, right, Steve?
Well, I mean, let's face reality. These guys, the YMCA, you couldn't go to the YMCA because it was full of homosexuals when I was a young kid. They had the swimming pools and all that kind of stuff. And then it's supposedly the young,
Men's Christian Association.
But everybody who lived there was a homosexual and they were always trying to pick up young boys. So I disagree with Blake Wally 100%. They are not born that way. It is mental illness and aberrant behavior. And this country has been for years, starting in the 1970s, has been glorifying aberrant behavior. They choose to be that way. They are not born that way. Nothing makes them behave that way. They choose to behave that way. So, and most of them, by the way, at least all the ones I know, and I don't hate them, by the way, I actually feel very, very, very sorry for them. So this isn't, Steve Doran does not hate homosexuals. I feel bad for them. But typically, everyone that I know personally was molested repeatedly by some male, a family member, close friend of the family, something like that, prior to becoming a homosexual. In fact, I don't know any that weren't, and they will tell you that, and just in their mind, I guess they were so broken when that happened to them and they weren't protected or whatever, that they felt that they needed to continue in the lifestyle because that's the way that they were used and misused and mistreated.
Yeah, Milo Yiannopoulos, who was one of the most famous gay Republican dudes, has gone straight, has gone back to being heterosexual, and hasn't really said what the cause was, although all he said was he found Jesus, he found So it's fascinating. Remember, we had that discussion a few weeks ago where there's an argument that it's parasites.
I mean, let's face reality. Let's face reality. I don't care who you are. Mike Bara, Brooks Agnew, TV's Blake Wally. We all can cross any line that we choose to cross. And the difference between people who are of high moral character and people who are not are people who choose to do the right thing and not do the wrong thing. And so when you have somebody who, has a catastrophic event in their life and they continue to do the wrong thing, it's typically because they have some mental illness or some mental malfunction because of what happened to them.
Yeah.
And it's sad. I mean, it is so
actually tragic.
Devastatingly sad. I mean, I can hardly stand it. And I wish that I could have been there to protect them when that happened.
Yeah.
Well, I was a scoutmaster for many years, and we fought this on a daily basis. We had codes put in place, two deep leadership, all kinds of activities that we did and practices that we incorporated into scouting to keep boys safe. And we fought this gay scoutmaster push for years and years and years. And it was actually Rex Tillerson who allowed it to happen. And within months of allowing gay, first it was regional directors, then it was scoutmasters. Within months of that decision, we began having molestation.
Yeah, the molestations went off the scale, and the organizations basically don't exist anymore.
Because scouting was a safe place, since the days it was formed. It was formed to keep boys active and keep them involved in manly things so that they would not have the idle time, and that's the devil's workshop, and make them responsible leaders. That's why it was there. That's what scouting was for. And we used to say scouting is a safe place, not to keep you from getting your knees skinned or your knuckles dragged every now and then, but to keep men from molesting the boys. And it was a full-time job, let me tell you, especially at scout camp.
Yeah. It's a sad state of affairs. I got to say, I think Nixon looks better and better as a president as the decades pass. Yeah. All right. Speaking of mental illness, Tucker Carlson has jumped on to the 9/11 bandwagon. Let's watch and listen.
Why did Building 7 collapse after just 7 hours of burning in a way that no steel frame building anywhere in the world has ever collapsed? Professor Leroy Hulsey of the University of Alaska at Fairbanks conducted an independent study whose findings were released in 2020. Professor Hulsey found that office fires of the kind in Building 7 on 9/11 could not have produced sufficient thermal expansion to cause the crucial girder to fail. It's impossible, he found. One group of scientists did collect and test 4 samples of dust and debris collected by a Manhattan resident about 10 minutes after the collapse of the Second World Trade Center tower. In those samples, the scientists found distinctive red-gray chips full of highly energetic and thermitic material. In other words, they found traces of explosive compounds.
Okay, let me just come right out and say this to you, Tucker. Okay, you're a fucking idiot. Okay, built WTC2 with the big long radio tower, cut right through WTC7, deposited molten aluminum all through the building, which caused the fires. There was massive structural damage. I don't know who this fucking clown is that you're quoting, but he doesn't know anything about it. And by the way, the red chips are called iron spherules, okay? And they are get this, common side effect of superheated steel. Not aluminum, not thermite. Thermite, by the way, is what they use in sparklers. So no, you dumb fuck. Sparklers didn't bring down building number 7. Basically, it was sliced almost in half, and you had hot fires weakening the remaining structure, just like in the Twin Towers. Good God, why do I have to keep repeating this dog shit? These people are fucking retards. Look, Blake, I know you kind of like Tucker because he's He's an Israel hater now because he's being.
I'm not an Israel hater.
I know you're not, but you kind of like Tucker because he says some things. I would watch this, but I know it's just going to infuriate me. There's three things I can't take anymore. We faked the moon landings. Okay, the Earth is flat, and 9/11 was an inside job. Of course it was. Okay, the inside job was let's crash airplanes into these buildings and see what happens to them. All right, what do you think about Tucker going here? Because look, in the end, anybody with a fucking brain, any architect or engineer who has any brains at all knows what happened to those buildings. He's going to look like a fool. Why is he jumping on the conspiracy bandwagon? Any thoughts about this, or just what do you think overall?
I mean, I'm glad he's doing some interesting journalism and taking on some controversial issues. I haven't followed too much of the 9/11 stuff, but there's a lot to go after. So he could totally be wrong on the physics of Building 7, but then to also expose what was happening behind the scenes, and did it seem like people had prior knowledge to it? Did it look like it was perhaps did they want this to happen as so they could have an excuse to put us into endless wars? Perhaps. Yep. So I'm happy to pull on any of those strings and see where it goes. But yeah, I hear your frustrations. I can't comment. I wouldn't have the scientific background to understand any of that stuff. I've just always been suspicious of it.
I would be happy to debate. I'm not even an architect, but I'm enough of an engineer to know what's true and what's bullshit. Right. Iron spherules are a commonly found with superheated steel and other metals. It's a common byproduct of that process. I'd be glad to debate any of these retards anytime, anywhere. Steve, am I getting too upset over nothing? Because here's what I see. There's the blame Israel crowd out there. And Israel can be blamed for a whole lot of things. I agree with that. But the Muslims are the ones who attacked us on 9/11. They are the ones invading our country. They are the ones trying to take over our towns and cities. They are the ones that the deep state cabal imported because they're vile. All right? And they're trying to destroy America from within with them. And anything that absolves the Muslims of responsibility and puts the responsibility on Israel, who at best, in my opinion, was a sideline player on 9/11, if they even knew a thing about it, really, is getting it under my skin. And this is exactly where Tucker is going. So do you see, what I think here is that they are people like Tucker Carlson want to start a new Middle East conflict, one that is aimed at Israel rather than one that is aimed at the Muslim world, which is where it ought to be. That's just my opinion. Am I crazy or what?
Well, first of all, it's sensationalistic journalism. You know, they want people to watch him. It's like him, Candace Owen. One of the things I saw Tucker Carlson say is that the Israelis are no longer, or the state of Israel is no longer chosen by God, that was abolished when Jesus came. I mean, and I've watched Candace Owen say the same thing. They don't like Israel. Anything they can say to make Israel look bad, they make stuff up. I'm sure, well, I know the Israelis knew about it prior to 9/11 because they reported issues and people to our CIA and our FBI and said, hey, you got to watch these guys. This is what they intend to do. This is the plan. They had inside information that they shared with the United States. And it's on the record that the FBI did not act on anything that they gave them. Nothing. So yeah, they knew about it, and they tried to pre-warn us, and they gave names and information to the FBI, who did absolutely nothing with that information, even after the tragedy had occurred. So, but they weren't responsible for it. They weren't behind it. Anything Tucker Carlson says, Candace Owen says, and people like them say, take it with a grain of salt, do your own research. Don't just take it as a gospel truth, because it absolutely is not.
Well, the thing is, again, what everybody doesn't want to deal with is that had Bill Clinton kept the CIA and FBI from communicating with each other, the reason he did that is to cover up all of the corrupt money laundering crimes he was committing as president, getting paid by China to sell them nuclear guidance, weapons guidance technology and stuff like that. And it led to 9/11, which, by the way, was planned, as I clearly show in my videos, to discharge the bankruptcy of the Corporation of the United States for another 70 years after 1999. And the answer was, okay, well, guess what? You're going to have a war in the Middle East. How are we going to start that? Well, here's a plan. But to pretend like it's all Israel that's doing everything, ooh, they're the evil masterminds behind everything, and that the Muslims are not the ones committing all of the violence out there. It's just, to me, it's just,
well, if you go to Israel, you can walk down the street and be perfectly safe unless there's a Muslim or Islamic suicide bomber around. Nobody will bother you. You don't have to worry about getting robbed. You don't have to worry about being assaulted. None of that kind of stuff.
Except by the Muslims.
Except by the Muslims. So, you go into Gaza, you're a dead man. Unless you've made prearrangements and you're on their side and you're going to be, preaching on their behalf. But I mean, you go to any Islamic country, doesn't matter which one it is, and you violate Sharia law in any way, shape, or form, you're either a dead man or you're going to come back with no hands, no feet, something, or spend the rest of your life in prison or get thrown off a roof, whatever the case may be. You don't have to worry about that in Israel. So, no. Anywhere there are Muslims, there's terror and there are
murder,
the most injustice
abuse,
you have ever seen in your life. And it was very difficult for me to work over there because the United States is like, well, that's their culture. It's all about the money. It's always all about the money.
Which is why our empire probably deserves to fall. The Empire State Building didn't come down because it was a slow-moving prop job airplane that weighed about 1/4 of what a fully loaded 767 weighs. It was flying at, I think, less than 130 miles an hour. It wasn't loaded with fuel. It was coming in for a landing. It was a foggy day. They didn't see that they were on the approach path of the Empire State Building. And basically, it was more like a rubber ball bouncing off a battleship, whereas the 767 was fully loaded, flying over 400 miles an hour. The amount of kinetic energy involved in that is more than a ton of dynamite, like 2,000 pounds of dynamite. It was 100,000 times the force of the Empire State Building impact. So you're talking about a B-17, I think it was.
Yeah, it was a B-17.
B-17 or B-25 Liberator, I forget, at slow speed in the fog, basically bumping into the Empire State Building, which had a completely different construction process as well. It was concrete, whereas the Twin Towers were mostly.
B-24 was a Liberator, and it was made out of plywood. So
yeah, so that's what the difference was. Lee says it was a B-25 Mitchell. So anyway, Brooks, any thoughts on the other subject? I just, I know exactly where Tucker's going with this because he's been on this anti-Israel binge, and I'm not going to defend Israel, but I think they had very little or nothing to do with 9/11. I put the blame 99% on the fucking Muslims. That's just me. What do you?
Well, I put the blame 99% on the Muslim. Well, actually, I'm not even going to put 99% on them. I blame the U.S. because they knew about the terrorists,
or should have known.
Knew what they were going to do. Right. They knew that these guys were training to be able to fly planes,
not land them.
Twin Towers, and not. They never trained to land. They only trained to be able to fly from point A to point B. They knew that before it ever happened.
James Woods, the Hollywood actor, a month before took one of the flights that was the exact flight they hijacked a month later, and he spotted these guys. It was a dress rehearsal, a training run. He told the captain, he called the captain. He said, see these guys behind me? They're going to hijack this airplane. He reported it, and it never went up the chain. Why? Because Bill Clinton had all of the connections to all the government agencies cut. So if anybody found out about his illegal money laundering activities, it wouldn't make it into the hands of somebody who might expose him and prosecute him. Brooks?
Oh, that's exactly right. Bill Clinton was running a drug and a gun running operation out of Mena, Arkansas, and he did everything he could do to keep one Fed agency from speaking to another Fed agency. He set up 9/11.
Right, by doing that. So, and people talk about the presidential daily briefing. Oh, well, but Bush knew about it. No, the daily briefing told him. It said, we find that these stories about hijacking airplanes to be completely exaggerated. This was like 2 weeks before 9/11. They told him, no, don't worry about that. That's not going to happen.
Yeah.
Well, see, this is where the deep state comes in. This is what I believe. I don't care if you're a police officer, FBI agent, doesn't matter. If somebody tells you something and can be halfway corroborated and you don't act on it, or your agency doesn't act on it, you should not only be held personally liable, not only should that agency be held liable, but every damn one of them should go to prison who had any knowledge of what they were told beforehand. And I'm so sick and tired of it. I mean, you know where I stand on all of it, but I get so tired of people making excuses for these, so-called law enforcement agencies that, they should be doing more. They could be doing more. They can be doing more. And they literally
don't do their
don't do it. And it puts the American people at risk every day.
Yeah. And guys, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, it's not so much what they did beforehand. It's what they did afterward. They didn't fix the problem. They put the National Defense Authorization Act in place and took away our rights. All they needed to do was harden the cabin doors so no one could take over the cockpit anymore, and make it to where the cabins of all those airplanes could dump their interior pressure and make everybody have to sit down with an oxygen mask or they're going to die. That would have fixed the problem. But no, they came after all of us, and they wanted us strip search. They wanted our rights
done deliberately. And the other thing they could have done, Brooks, is they could have racially profiled Arab terrorists. That's the other thing.
I mean, let's face it. Like I said, Brooks, the two terrorists were identified, going to flight school in the U.S. They knew who they were. They never took any classes on how to land the dang thing, just to fly from point A to point B. And they knew their names. They knew where they lived. They had all of their information, and they knew that they had done a dry run prior to the incident. I mean, you want to stop it? Arrest the guys, pick them up, and put them in jail. But no, they didn't do that. So, it was, in my opinion, it was a fault of the United States government that happened, because they knew beforehand exactly what was going on, and nobody said anything.
The United States government had entered into an agreement with the corporate creditors of the Corporation of the United States in 1999 and agreed to the plan of getting the U.S. involved in a Middle Eastern war in order to discharge the bankruptcy of the United States. See, that's what happened. That's why 9/11 happened. It was all a setup. It wasn't, there were just, the people in charge knew something was going to happen. And then that excuse was used to drive us into the war in the Middle East, period. It was. That's why we went into Iraq. That's why we have the Iraqi dinar thing. That's all because of that. All right, guys. Controversial show today. Sorry about Richard Nixon's comments, but I'm not sure he's wrong. I think, again, I don't think children should have a clue what sex is until they're 11, 12, 13 years old. I don't think they should be exposed to it at all in any way, shape, or form. And the people who have been pushing this agenda, and I've watched it my whole life, are nothing but a bunch of the left-wing perverts who are now dancing around in front of kids and pushing drag queen story hours. So, all right, guys, that's going to wrap it up for the show. I'll be back tomorrow with Jennifer at 11, and then 10 Pacific, 1 Eastern, and then Whiskey and Wisdom tomorrow night with the original Mark Z. Thanks for being there. Hang in there. Stay tough. Stay masculine.
Wait a minute. I need everybody to go on
on the Bark channel.
They know the hour's up. That's what happens every time the hour's up. Enough. Hang on. When the hour's
You gotta
up,
love
know
dogs. You gotta love.
exactly what time it is.
It's time for you, Dad, to feed them. Yeah.
It's time just for me to get off the air, basically.
Yeah.
But anyway, if all the listeners could go to TikTok, I'm Trail Boss 89 on TikTok. Like my videos, subscribe, share them. I'm Steve Doran Trail Boss on Instagram, and then on Facebook I have Trail Boss Outdoors, which also has the videos. And if you would click on those, I would really appreciate it.
By the way, your dogs just woke up. Hundreds of dogs all across the
There's no dogs.
These guys, I'm not kidding you. My dogs, I kid you not, at the hour mark,
Yeah.
as soon as it hits an hour, they're like, all right, dude, get off the freaking air.
Another thing, guys, I'm disappointed tonight. No Rumble rants, no super chats. Let's get that going again because this show's got to pay for itself, or it's not going to stay on the air.
Well, if they're not seeing it on YouTube, that's probably why.
Well, but it is on.
It's on YouTube. I'm watching it on YouTube.
Yeah, it's there. It's there. All right.
Brooks Agnew obviously would have like the Star Trek Space Command visuals all over, so he can see everything.
I have 3 screens.
Yeah. So Terry thinks you're a great cook, Steve. Steve Doran, you're single again, aren't you?
Yeah.
Maybe you and Terry. So. All right, come out to Pahrump. See me on Saturday.
I would love to come out to Pahrump and see you, but that ain't going to happen.
All right, good.
You got to give us more notice. You got to give us more notice when you're doing stuff.
All right, okay. All right, well, thank you, Lee. I appreciate that. All right, guys, thanks for being here. See you tomorrow with Jen at 1 Eastern. Bye-bye.
Good night, everybody.
Thank you.
Big dating game.